Welcome to Productive Joy with Dr. Christy, where fun meets action.
Hi, friends. Welcome to Productive Joy. You are in for a treat today. I have my friend here, Anthony Cook, and we are going to talk about all kinds of things. But before we jump into all of that, if you're not already following the podcast, that's step one. It really does make a difference because then people will hear it, share it with your friends. Y'all, the nuggets of wisdom that are dropping here are just powerful. And my goal here is to give you a shot of B12 so that you can continue on and do really great things. And today is going to be no exception. Anthony, I am so excited that you are here. So my friends, Anthony is a couple things. Okay, so he is a self-proclaimed nerd, which I kind of love. He loves all things sci-fi and whether it's animated or live or in person, comic books, that kind of stuff. He does that with his kids because he's a father. He's also a school board candidate, which I'm super excited about. And we really need him in that seat in Osceola County. So go ahead and do that when you can vote if you're in that jurisdiction. He does jujitsu, and he has a group of guys that are self-proclaimed nerds, everything from special ops to school counselors, which I kind of love. And he's also like full-time a training specialist for Zellas. So Anthony, welcome to Productive Joy.
Thank you for having me on. Super excited to be here.
Oh, this is going to be so much fun. Okay, so Anthony, you have been a listener for a while, and you have been a friend of mine for several years. I feel like we kind of met over the pandemic because that's when we were both serving on a committee for FCAN, which we can talk about if we want to. But more importantly, people only choose to listen to things that spark their interest. So can you convince us that this is going to be worth listening to in like 30 seconds or less?
I will do my very best for this elevator speech. Listen, when it comes to you and I, like our last conversation, I feel like how you just now set this up, there's nuggets of wisdom that are dropped constantly. So I would say probably in this episode, just through our natural conversation, I think there's going to be a little bit of something for everybody that will give them that shot of B12, that will inspire them, encourage them, and hopefully from our interaction, just some light and life can be spoken into some people's lives today. So that's why we want you to stay on, because I think that's just going to happen through our natural conversation.
I think you're right. So the conversation that you're referring to happened at FCAN. FCAN stands for Florida College Access Network. And this is a conference that we both went to, and it's a company or an organization that we both belong to because we believe that all students should have options when they graduate. And the state of Florida does some pretty cool things around that space. And what I have loved about you from the beginning is that you are a natural connector of humans. You figure out a way to say, okay, you know this person and you know that person, you two should talk. Or let me tell you about this thing that I'm doing that really makes a big difference. So is that just an innate part of you, or did you figure out that that was something you were supposed to do?
Both. I think it's a little bit of both. I think just my upbringing and stuff. I refer. There are two kinds of people. There are so many different analogies we can use, but in this vein, we're going to go with two type of people. They're the dogs. They're the warm and fuzzies will come up and lick you and want to be petted and super friendly. And then there's the cat, the observers, right? We're
Right.
off in the background trying to figure out where we can get in and fit in. And that was just always how I approached life. So when I moved into a professional space, really I spent a lot of time listening, taking in information, observing people, and trying to figure out I'm problem solving, right? We want people to be in the best positions possible. We want to solve issues. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, who needs to talk, what really needs to be solved over here. We're stuck on this, but really this is the problem. So it's kind of I've learned it, but well, it's been a part of me, but as I've gotten older, I've learned to refine that we can get down to the nuts and bolts of something to address the real issue so that we can get the work done.
Well, and you've been trained in such. So the one thing I didn't mention in your intro is that you actually have your master's in wait a minute, family and marriage counseling, right? Is that right?
Ready? Marriage and family couples therapy with an endorsement in school count.
Oh my goodness. That's actually where our conversation went that evening, where we were just kind of talking about all things figuring each other out, right? When you're with another human for life, almost 25 years for me, it'll be 25 years by the time this airs. You figure things out, you learn things together, and that's that observing piece. But okay, dogs or cats? You calling yourself a cat? I don't,
I am
I
I'm a
don't
cat
see that.
person. I'm a cat person. No, it's because I observed long enough, and especially like when it came to you, I observed long enough. I was like, all right, she speaks my language. I can, this is where I fit in. Let me go ahead and fit in here. And sure enough, I called it right and we fit right in.
Well, okay, then I guess I will give you that because I am much more a dog. I'm like, that's so pretty. And it can be a lot. But that's also because I don't know if you've ever done the Clifton Strengths Finder. Have you ever done the Clifton Strengths? So I have a lot of woo, which is that winning others over. And
Never-
so the conversation can be quick and then I can move on. But when we talk, I want to keep talking. And I think that's because you have this masterful way of asking good questions to get people to go deeper than maybe they would with others. So how do you leverage that in your space? Like you have a couple different spaces, but how do you leverage that skill of question asking?
So how I previously stated, we're in the world, I'm in the world of education, right? And education has a lot of things that need to be resolved.
Yes,
And
that part.
I am a person of efficiency. So I don't like waste my time spinning wheels and pouring in energy in something that's not going to yield positive results. And so when you find yourself in a space of education and you're working with people, we have to get through all of the we have to get through all of the muck to
Uh,
get to where we need to get to. And because I spend all of that time observing and in my mind, I think I've identified what the true issue is. If I had confirmed it and I know what that true issue is when it comes to my workspace, now I'm trying to ask the questions that get us beyond the muck and get to where we need to get to so that we can start doing the actual work, right? So that we don't lose time and waste time.
His time is precious, and I think you sort of just defined productive joy. I'm gonna let you elaborate on that a little bit because you know I'm gonna ask, but
Okay.
that to me is productive joy in that you aren't messing with the garbage that gets in the way, the noise, right? Like you're able to cut out the noise. And we are more advanced in our careers than somebody who's just starting out. I'm not going to make you list your age, but in my 25 years of educational work, I've discovered that there is a lot of noise and that when you're first starting out, it's very easy to get wrapped up in the noise. And then eventually you have to elevate your eyes, right? You have to look up and say, no, I'm not going to get stuck in the stuff. I am going to make sure that what we do is productive. And that sounds like what you're doing, but don't let me put words in your mouth. What is your definition of productive joy?
It's about there's so many there's so many phrases, analogies.
Your
My dad
analogy. Walk us through some because I know you think that way. Tell us.
well, my dad has said this to me, and I get on my dad. My dad is he's such a cornball, but he's so wise. And and it's funny, and sometimes I catch myself saying things that he says, and then I hear it in other spaces too. But life is really about it. It's win or lesson. It's not win or loss. I don't ever take a loss. I learn a lesson, right? So I may win in this situation. I've learned a lesson, and I may not have won, but really what it was a learning experience. So for me, it's that mindset. Like failure is a part of life. Failure is how you learn. Problems are a part of life. Problems is how you learn, right? Conflict is a part of life. Conflict is how you learn. You learn more about yourself, you learn more about the people you're working with and the systems that you're trying to resolve. So I have a colleague of mine. I don't know if you remember her, Amanda Lopez in the Abbott space.
Yes, yes.
Oh, Amanda and I used to work together, and she said, "Cook, I need you to come downstairs." Like anytime she was throwing an event, but I need you, are you available? And I'm like, yeah. I finally asked her, said, why you always asking me to come down? She said, Anthony, I just know if things go crazy, you're gonna be even kill. You're
Mm.
like in real time, you're problem solving. If I go up, you bring me down. If other people go up, you bring them down. So I try to bring this level of calm and I laugh so much. So you're like I probably shouldn't be laughing at, but that productive, th- the productive joy comes from having the mindset of, I want to get down to solving this problem. What's the lesson to be learned? And how can we do it with grace and dignity and just enjoy the moment, be present in the moment so that we can take in all of those things that we really need to take on. Because oftentimes I find that we have missed the lesson or we've missed the nugget because we haven't been looking. So it goes back to your question at the beginning. I'm always observing, right? So when I'm present, I'm trying to be present and I'm trying to observe so that I can gain from that moment what I need to gain from it to help myself or to help the next person or to help the person that's in that same situation as me.
Uh, so everybody doesn't think that way. We often get caught up in the junk and we're not looking at the good and we're not looking for the solution. We're just being part of the problem, right? And this podcast is designed for leaders who want to do it differently, who want to figure out what you've figured out, which is we're here to solve a problem. We're not here to create problems. So, what advice would you have for somebody that is trying to do it more like you're doing it, but might get stuck in the stuff sometimes?
Yeah, so there's a book that I read, and I think it was by David Platt, and it for church growth, but I think it applies to leadership in general. And it was called A Simple Church. Simple Church is what it's called. And it's really about keeping the main thing the main thing. So when I was at the district office and I had my team, my college and career readiness counselors, we have certain phrases that we use, and they call it cooking. When I left, they made me like this little thing. It has all these tiles in it and all my cookisms. And it's those things that, you say as a leader all the time that gets
Yep.
on people's nerves, but it's defines you and your approach and stuff. But one of the things that we talk about is begin with the end in mind. And Simple Church talks a lot about that. Where are you trying to go? That's the landing spot. So it's now backward mapping. How do we get there? And when you're considering how to get there, it's not all things. Many things may be good things to do, but are they the right things to do to get you closer to that landing space, right? So, like, especially in the college and career space, we have all these grand ideas. Many of them are awesome, but is that where we're going to get the most bang for our buck? Is that going to get us closer to the end that we've already clearly defined? So, I'll give you an example. Like when we would meet at the beginning of the year, I had this report card for them, post-secondary data outcomes, and we were looking at all this data and stuff, and we identify areas where we did really great and areas where we still have some growth to do. And then I share with them my goals for the team. They share with me their personal goals. And then we work together to collaborate on what do we need to do this year to get to this end goal as a team. What do I need to do to help support you to get to your end goal as an individual in your profession? Or maybe it's just personal. Because we developed that. I've been 20 years deep in this in the same county. So we developed that as well. So I think for leaders, you gotta identify the landing space and then you have to backwards map. And it's not you backwards mapping, it's you with your team backwards mapping. Because when they go through that process, now you have buy-in. So then when they get in the muck, and they're creating problems or they can't see the forest through the trees, you can bring them. That's your anchor. Remember what our end goal is, right? Are we on track? Is what you're doing getting us there, or is it pulling us back? Oh no, you're right. That's not. I'm gonna have to shift. So we
Yeah.
meet monthly, so we're constantly evaluating. We're constantly going back to that landing space, that end goal. We're constantly seeing what we're doing, getting us there, and then pivoting when we need to pivot if we creating more of a mess than we need to create, you know?
You just said so many great things. So I heard PDSA, right? Plan, Do, Study, Act, that is an actual event that happens for you and your team. I also heard keep the main thing, and set a target. That is literally the name of one of the chapters in my book. If you don't keep the main thing, if you don't put a clear target out there, how do you even know if you're successful? You don't. So, what I also heard though is that my version of success and your version of success need to look a little different based on our talent.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to do X, Y, and Z because I'm trying to hit the bullseye and you're trying to hit that next layer outside for another 20 points, right? And so your goals and my goals might not be identical, but they're hitting the same overall target. that's a masterclass in all things leadership, right? I can't, if all of us are doing exactly the same thing, then we are wasting our time. And we should each be doing something that makes us personally better. So clearly you figured out the corner on that market, but then you shifted, right? And you have a new kind of excitement for what's happening in your community. So tell us what prompted you to go into this whole political space of becoming a school board member in a district that you worked for 20 years.
Yeah, I had a good friend reach out to me because we know local local politics, it's weird for me to even say politics because I don't consider myself political, but in this space, this is where we see real time practical resolution.
Absolutely.
Not that we should not be voting for, president and all the national roles or whatever the case is, but we want to make sure that our local positions are filled with people that we trust, people that are going to get the job done. And oftentimes we find that that's not the case. So some of that was going on. And somebody reached out to me and was like, Anthony, what are your thoughts on doing this? And as I reflected on it, I was like, I've got 20 years in education. So I feel like I've earned my stripes. I've been in the school system. I've been at the district level. I have been part of teams at the state, at the national, even the global level. So I feel like I've learned, I think I've learned a lot and I've been in enough spaces to where I can lend my voice and lend my experience to get the job done. And that is what I mentioned to you, my purpose being people becoming the best versions of themselves. Well, that's been all of my work here in the community. This is just the next layer to that. So, like I said, I've done it at a school, I've done it at the district level. Now it's time to take a look at it from this space and lend my voice and my experience and try to put our students and try to put our educators in the best positions possible to be the best versions of themselves for our kids when they leave the K-12 space and our educators as they are providing that education to help them grow and become the best versions of themselves as educators. And if it's not in education, whatever that next space is for them, helping them to identify what that is and then launch into that space where they can be successful as well.
I love that. And you and I are in the education space. However, I am learning more and more and more as I broaden my horizons that what we do in the education space translates into the business world of building relationships, equipping people to be good at what we're asking them to do. We do that for students. However, if we're not doing that for employees, then what are we doing? We've got to equip people to be good. And then we also have to let them know what's available to them so that they can, and by they, whoever we're influencing, so that they can go be the best versions of themselves. And I know you kind of told me some of the things that you had to do, even to just get on the ballot. So tell us about going out into your community and literally knocking on doors and letting people know why you are someone worth trusting. Because I think as leaders, we don't even do that in our own buildings, right? Like if we're in a physical building, we don't knock on doors and let people know who we are. We don't get on Zoom and say, "Hi, I just want to get to know you a little bit." We kind of put ourselves in silos and are like, "I'm going to be over here. And if you want to come over here, that's great, but I'm not really going to venture out." No, in fact, I'm going to guess that was not exactly in your comfort zone.
Not at all. Not at all. And in my workspace, especially being in a district for 20 years, even being as a district lead for 5, one of the things that I try to do, it's funny you say productive joy, but there's just like regular workspace joy. And I'm known at the district office. In fact, I should have introduced you to because one of my guys was there from the district office and he was making a joke he was making a joke of me with some people that he works with. And he was like, yeah, I know when Anthony's in the office, it's the laugh that echoes throughout the
That is not a bad thing to be known for your life.
no, it's not. And I would do really silly stuff when it was people's birthdays. I have a whole happy birthday song. I would go and I'd make a whole production out of it or whatever. But it was easy for me because I've rubbed elbows with these people over the course of 20 years, right? So it was as a cat, I observed and this is where I fit in and I knew my spot. I felt a little bit comfortable. But launching out and having to knock on doors, that is not
You had to get a certain number of signatures, right? Is that right?
Yeah,
To be on
yeah.
ballot,
So
and they
to
had to be
you
valid.
can to qualify, you either pay a fine or you qualify via petition.
Got it.
And to me, if I'm running for local political position, in my mind, it makes sense to qualify based on the community backing me. So I did. I knocked on 1,700 doors, roughly, and spoke to a ton of people. I turned in about 711 petitions. 568 were accepted, and I was the only one in my race that qualified via petitions. But it's this balance, Christy. Like, if I have to hype myself up to go knock on doors, I'm walking like 6 miles a day out in the hot sun. I put on super nice golden pen that I have. But once you knock on the door and you are able to talk to one or two people and you just have good conversations, whether it them supporting you or not, just being able to have conversations around the importance of the position, the importance of having somebody in this space that can support education and continue to build and grow and bring us up to a better standing, that gives this shot in the arm where it's like, okay, I can go another 100 houses today. Let's get it. You know, even if I get 5 people today, 10 people today, like this is what I'm talking about. This is why I'm doing it. So it's always a good reminder when once you're able to have just some, just some authentic, honest conversations around education.
Okay, so I'm gonna go in this direction because this is just entertainment value. Have you ever watched Sebastian Maniscalco, the
Yeah.
comedian? Okay.
Yeah.
So you know the skit that he does where he talks about how when you answer the door and you actually are hiding behind the couch and like pretending that you're not home because why would anybody be knocking on your door? I am sure you have at least one epic story about somebody not answering their door or answering their door or answering the door in their underwear. Like, tell us some magnificent moments that happened as you knocked on 1,700 doors.
Yeah, the last one you said, there was actually somebody in the undergarments. Yeah, that was interesting. And I was like, oh,
And had a full blown conversation with you in their
a
underpants.
whole conversation. Husband and wife invited me in the
I'm
house.
sorry, what?
Yeah, chopped it up with them. They were an older couple. I was like, okay, this is how this is going. But they were major supporters and got other people in the community to sign and stuff. So it ended up being like really great conversation, really great help. But yeah, definitely. But and when they came, I was like, do you need to go ahead and that? Like,
Are we doing?
I'm not going nowhere. Like it's cool. But nah, they were good with it. I've had people legit just talk to me through their door. We're yelling at each other through the door because it's a door. It's a
Yeah.
with a door. Like how they wouldn't even peek out of the blinds. We're yelling at each other through the door, through the ring. The ring is awesome. I've learned that
Yeah. Did you get
doing the
down
ring.
close to the ring, like, and talk to,
Yeah,
like,
I did. I did. I sure
okay.
did. Like I don't know why. I don't know why, but I put my face right up
You
on
felt
it.
like, yeah, you needed to have your eyes right on it. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, so
yeah.
entertaining.
And then I've had people not answer the door, and then I'm 2 houses down, and then they come outside and survey whoever was just knocking on the door. Yeah,
That is amazing. You know what? It was a true study in human nature, I am sure, and you learned a heck of a lot. Well, Anthony, I know I could talk to you all day, and I want people to continue to get excited about getting to know you and learning more about you. So before I rapid fire, how might somebody get in touch with Anthony Cook? If they just wanted to talk to you more or maybe find out where in Osceola County you are or whatever, how might they get in touch with you?
yeah. Vote Anthony Cook on all social media platforms. That's also the website, anthonycook.com. It has all my contact information on there. A lot of people follow me on the social media platforms and just private message me or DM me. But there is a phone number on there. Email is the same as the social media feeds and stuff. VoteAnthonyCook@gmail.com. So anything Vote Anthony Cook would be amazing. That just following the Vote Anthony Cook is amazing. The more the more followers you have, the higher you're up in the algorithm, and then the word gets out and things of that nature. So Vote Anthony Cook is the way to go.
Love it. And Cook does not have an E, correct?
No, no E.
No E. Okay, because well, Anthony is pretty standard, but I wanted to make sure people spelled it all right. All right, so Anthony, are you ready for some rapid fire questions?
Let's go.
Okay, first question. What is your definition of fun?
Oh man.
Oh, right?
It's
That
supposed to be
question was kind of
rapid fire. You hit me with deep question. Definition of fun. Whatever brings joy to your life, whatever makes your heart happy, makes you feel at home and at ease.
so give me an example, something that you did with your kids this weekend even.
Going to the movies and going out to lunch.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. So how do you know that you're showing up as your authentic self?
How do I know I'm showing up as my authentic self? Yeah, when I act natural. I don't have to think through things. It just kind of flows. It comes out, and there is a sense of ease when I do something, and I don't have to think about it afterwards. Like, oh my gosh, I made this mistake. I made that mistake. I need to do this different. It just feels. My cup is filled after that interaction. It makes me feel. 2020. I know that I showed up often.
Love it. Love it. Okay. So how do you show up as your best self on your worst days?
Best self on my worst days. Okay, so I know this is rapid fire, but I have
Tell a story.
so in Velo, we have to do like a weekly check-in. We have it's called 15-5. We do a weekly check-in and you have to rate how your week was. And my boss, she about 6 months into Zello, she said, Anthony, are you really a five every time you check in? And I scale of 1 to 5, five being the highest. And I said, yeah, Julie, I'm a five. And she said, why are you a five? I said, well, I said, I have, and this Christine, I'm not trying to be corny, like legit. This is how I feel. I said, I have breath in my lungs. My kids are healthy. I'm healthy. I have a job. I'm making impact. I'm living out my purpose. Like, what is there not to be? Why would I not be a five? You know what I'm saying? Even again, wins or lessons, even if there's something that happens that I'm frustrated about, yeah, I can dump that frustration, but there's a lesson to be learned. So now I'm examining what's the lesson for me to be learned so that I can apply that and to your question, be the best version of myself. That's how I show up to be the best version. Always taking in those lessons, trying to incorporate it in my life that the next day I'm better than I was the day before, or even the next hour I'm better than I was the hour before. But between my relationship with God and praying and centering myself in the morning, breath routine, yoga, exercising, eating healthy, all of those things help you show up to be the best version of yourself.
They do. And what I heard is you're taking care of you first and you're choosing to see the positive regardless, right? The fact that we take breathing for granted, but you said I have breath in my lungs, or that, you're healthy. And sometimes we just overlook that because whatever life happens, and you're not choosing to overlook that. You're choosing to look that right in the face. And I think that there is so much power in that. So, my favorite final question, and the reason that we're here is that you just said so many beautiful things. Wins or lessons is one of my favorite that you've dropped so far, although you've said lots of things. So, if people can only remember one thing that you said today, what's the one nugget of wisdom you want to leave them with?
Hmm. Mm. Okay, I don't know that I said, but
That's
I
okay.
think I think this goes back to being your authentic self and in that productive joy. So when I do motivational speaking with students, one of the things that I say to them as I go through my whole life and then I tell them lessons learned. And one of the things that I say to them is, are you willing to make the necessary sacrifices now to enjoy the fruits of your labor later? So part of being a person that can have productive joy, showing up authentically is actually doing the work. And I find oftentimes that people want to be at a certain place, but they're unwilling to put in the work. And the irony of that is you would actually get there quicker if you would do the harder thing now and trying to avoid it. And now it's like the children, it's like Moses and the children of God in children of Israel in Egypt, right? How many years did they walk around the promised land before they could get in because they were unwilling to do the hard, necessary thing now, right? So nugget of wisdom, put in the work, like do it and do it now. Like there's truly nothing holding you back. You may think it's holding you back, but it's about prioritizing. And if that is priority, you will start to reevaluate and reorder things in your life so you can get done the things that need to be done now to put you in the best position possible, the position that you're trying to be in. So that would be my nugget. You want
So
to have
knock on the
joy?
doors. I love it.
Yeah.
Knock on the doors. Do the hard thing. Choose to get out of your own way. There is a whole heck of a lot of power in those words, Anthony, and I appreciate so much, and I know my listeners do too, that you chose to spend some time with us today, that you chose to share your nuggets that you've learned over time of wisdom and knowledge and growth. And that way, we don't have to learn the lessons the hard way. We can go ahead and take your advice. Now, what we choose to do with it, right? Wins or lessons, some people choose losses, and for what, right? Like there's no productivity in that. And you're all about productive joy. So thank you. Thank you for choosing to spend your time with us today. We are very blessed to have had you in our presence. And listeners, thank you for coming back and for spending another 30 minutes learning how to figure out how to do things a slightly different way, how to learn from people who have come before you, and just do great things. So if you're not already following, follow. If you haven't reached out to me to tell me the great things that you think we should be talking about on here, email me. Go ahead and find Productive Joy on all different platforms, whether it's LinkedIn or Instagram or even TikTok. Please, please go and follow because it really does make a big difference. And then, my sweet friends, if the number one thing you do today is that you figure out how to turn fun into action, then you can call that a win.